Kayla Harper, and today we're going to talk about algebraic equations. So before we start this lesson, you are going to need a pencil and a piece of paper just to write down the examples. But other than that, you should be fine. So I know that starting out with algebraic equations, that sounds kind of scary, right? Because a lot of times they have variables and we don't know what that variable number is. And so I promise you, as soon as you learn them, they're not as hard as you think, okay? So before we even start talking about an algebraic equation, let's just review and ask ourselves, well, what is an equation, right? So an equation is just a statement that the values of two mathematical expressions are equal, and it's usually indicated by an equal sign, right? So an easier way to remember this is just this equals that statement, right? So examples of that would be 5 plus 5 equals 10, right? So you know that that's true. Again, that's just two mathematical expressions indicated by an equal sign. So that is an equation, right? Another one could be 6 plus 4 equals 7 plus 3, right? So 6 plus 4, it equals 10, right? So you have 10 on one side and 7 plus 3 equals 10. So you have 10 on the other side. So that's a true statement. Again, it's two mathematical expressions that's indicated by an equal sign. Next, we're going to talk about what a missing variable is, right? So missing variables, sometimes they can seem scary, right? But it's not. It's just a character or symbol that represents that missing number, right? So typically, you'll see that we use a single letter in math to represent a variable, and most of the time you see it's going to probably be either X, Y, or Z, okay? Does anyone know any other examples of variables besides X, Y, and Z?
J.
Yeah, that's right. J could be a variable. It could also be an A, a B, a C, a question mark, or an @ sign, right? It can be any letter or any character or just any symbol that you can put into an equation, right? And that's going to represent the missing number. So next we're going to talk about what an algebraic equation is. So an algebraic equation is an equation that includes one or more missing variables, right? So an example of that could be like x plus 4 equals 10, right? I know you don't know how to solve that. Don't worry, we don't have to answer it just yet. We're just going over an example of what an algebraic equation looks like. So another one could be 10 minus x equals 7. Those are both algebraic equations just because they have a variable and it has an equal sign, right? That's an algebraic equation, right? So next we're going to talk about how to solve these equations, okay? So for us, our example is going to be 24 plus x equals 33. So does anyone know how we're going to start this question or start how we're going to solve? What's the first step in how to solve this equation?
I don't know.
So the first thing we have to do is we have to get x by itself, right? So how do we do that? What we have to do is we're going to actually, in this one, we're going to subtract 24 from each side. So that's important because you have to remember that if you're going to subtract 24 from one side of the equation, you have to make sure that you also subtract it from the other side of the equation, okay? So here we're going to subtract 24, so 24 minus 24 is 0, right? So you achieved your goal, you got x by itself, right? So now you have to do it to the other side, right? So well, 33 minus 24, what is that, right? It's 9. So does anyone know how we check to make sure that this 9 is the right answer?
You could plug it back in.
Yeah, that's true. You could put it back into the original equation. That's how you check to make sure that that's the right answer, okay? So 24 plus 9 equals 33. The next thing we have to ask ourselves, is that a true statement, right? Does 24 plus 9 actually equal 33? Yes, it does. So if that's a true statement, then you know that 9 was your answer. Okay, so we're going to go over another one. How do we solve another algebraic equation? We're going to have 16 plus x equals 49, right? So the first thing we have to do is...
Let's get x by itself.
Yes, that's true. We have to get x by itself, right? And how do we get x by itself? We're going to subtract it from both sides, okay? So we have 16 plus x equals 49. We're going to subtract 16 from this side. So 16 minus 16 equals 0. Again, you achieved your goal. You got x by itself. So now what we did to one side, we have to do the other, right? So we have to subtract 49 from 16. Well, that's going to be 33. Okay, how do we check that this is the right answer?
You plug it back in.
Exactly. So what we're going to do instead, we're going to plug it back into the equation. Instead of having 16 plus x equals 49, we're going to have 16 plus 33 equals 49, right? Is this a true statement? Yes, it is. So 16 plus 33, that is 49. So our answer is going to be 33, okay? Let's go for another one, right? So our new example is going to be x minus 46 equals 27. So the first thing we've already said we have to do is get x by itself, right? So after we get x by itself, how do we get x by itself if we have a subtraction sign this time? We have to do the opposite. So what is that?
Adding.
Yeah, so are we going to add 46 to just one side?
No.
No, we're going to add it to both. That's right. So negative 46 plus 46 is 0 again. You've achieved your goal. You've got x on one side, right? Next thing we have to do is add 46 to 27. Well, 46 to 20 plus 27 is 73, right? We have to figure out and make sure that this is the right answer, right? So we're going to put it back into the original equation. So instead of x minus 46 equals 27, we now have 73 minus 46 equals 27. Now, is that a true statement?
Yeah.
Exactly. It is a true statement. The answer is 73, right? So one more of a subtraction, right? Our next example is going to be x minus 34 equals 41. Okay, what's the first thing we have to do?
Get x by itself.
Yes, we have to get x by itself. How do we get x by itself in this one?
Add.
Yeah, we have to add 34 to both sides. So x minus 34 equals 41. We're just going to add 34 under here. So negative 34 plus 34 is 0, right? Next we have 41 and plus 34, and that's going to equal 75. So how do we check to make sure 75 is the right answer?
Plug it back into the equation.
Yeah, so we just have to plug it back in. So instead of having x minus 34 equals 41, we're going to have 75 minus 34 equals 41, right? So is that going to be a true statement?
Yes.
Yes, it is a true statement. So our answer is 75. So that was our last example for today. And that's just basically how you solve your basic algebraic equation, okay? So thank you so much for listening, and unfortunately that's all we have time for, okay? Thank you.